The wait is finally over. The Alien franchise is back with Alien Romulus. How good is it though? You'll find out in this video. Welcome back to Mike's Monsters. Today I am finally sharing my long requested thoughts on Alien Romulus. This will be a spoiler-free video. I won't be giving away any spoilers, details, secrets, or any reveals like that, even though the marketing shared quite a bit towards the end of its run. I will be sharing a spoiler discussion shortly after this review comes out, along with the differences between an early cut that I got to see of the film and the final version you got to see in theaters. Fede Alvarez is a master of horror. I really loved his Evil Dead remake, especially as a big super fan of the original Evil Dead series. I love me some Bruce Campbell. Fede really knows how to make an intense, visceral film that gets underneath your skin. So I've seen the early cuts of Alien Romulus and the final version now. I was lucky enough, thanks to a good friend, to get an invite to watch the final version of the film on the 20th Century Studio lot with the crew that made the movie. I received an invite from my buddy Adam of Nostromo crew, who designed this really beautiful Nostromo hat replica that was worn by Brett in the 1979 film. He makes immaculate recreations of a lot of the pieces of that film, like clothing, hats, patches, and more, and you might see some of his work in Alien Romulus. If you've seen behind-the-scenes photos of Fede Alvarez on the set, he's wearing one of Adam's hats. I highly recommend his website, Nostromo Crew, to pick up something like this if you want to have very authentic recreations of this alien clothing in your collection. Fede Alvarez was not there. He was out of town showing the film to his family. But familiar faces from the Alien franchise were there, like Alec Gillis. The energy in the room was electric, filled with anticipation and pride from all the folks that helped bring this film to life. It was an absolutely wonderful experience sharing this first viewing of the final product with these people. If you haven't been keeping up with all my Alien Romulus videos, you might not know that I was brought in and got to help out with the marketing just a little tiny bit. Not a lot, but just a little bit. Thanks to my deep knowledge of the Alien franchise and being a fan for most of my life, I was brought in by a specific team who was working on some of the marketing to help guide them through a little bit of the knowledge of the franchise. That team was not overly knowledgeable on the franchise, but someone on the team was like, I know a guy, and I got brought in. I was not paid for that at all. I couldn't pass up helping contribute to a new Alien film, one of my favorite franchises of all time. Some folks claim that I went to a test screening and that's where I got all my information from, but that's not the case. I was actually behind the scenes a little bit. I could have made a ton more videos just spilling every detail about the film and spoiling everything and telling you all exactly what happens. That's not my vibe. I respect the craft of storytelling. I really did not want any spoilers to get out there, and it was really disappointing when the leaks started happening. I do this YouTube stuff for fun and not profit. I don't make really much money at all from this, certainly not enough to live off of. My photography career and love for franchises like Alien, Predator, Godzilla, and more have opened up doors for me that I could have never imagined when I was a younger fan. I am incredibly grateful and thankful for all those experiences, and for all of you who have decided to tune in, follow me, and watch my YouTube videos. It's been a really great journey. I feel lucky to have been able to see an early version of this film, before any of the leaks or any of the marketing hit. I saw it way early. So I was able to experience all the surprises, twists, and turns that were meant to be experienced as you were watching the film for the first time. I wish so many fans were able to experience the film that way, without any leaks or spoilers, but unfortunately, the internet culture is what it is, and things just got out, and some people just can't help themselves by making videos and by watching these videos. I've stated in previous videos, but the version I saw was very unfinished. Unfinished special effects, puppets had wires coming out of them, CGI looked like gray blocks without color or texture, sometimes no sound in some scenes, the music was not final, the end credits were very different, they showed placeholder credits, the opening title said something else too, and there were actually some differences between the final version of the film and the cut that I saw earlier in the year. Let's move away from all of that and finally talk about the latest entry in the Alien franchise, Alien Romulus. Set between the first two films, Alien and Aliens, during that 57-year gap, it follows a young crew and an android who live in a colony, the Jackson Star, on a very hostile planet. The living conditions on this planet killed off most of, if not all of the characters' parents due to the hostile environment, disease, or accidents due to working conditions. The cast of characters do not want to end up like their parents. So they plan a heist to steal materials from a decommissioned Weyland-Yutani station that they find that no one else has caught on to yet, to leave the planet and start fresh, happy new lives in a new system. But of course, they stumble across the most dangerous creature in the universe, the Xenomorph, and chaos really ensues. This movie is a love letter to the entire Alien franchise, from Prometheus all the way to Alien Resurrection. This is not a Ripley story. This happens in the 57 years that her and Jonesy are taking a very long nap, and she does not show up in this film. Let's talk about the cast really quick. The younger cast works really well together, and even though they're young, they're still adults. They're young adults. They are not teenagers in this film, even though a lot of angry social media comments seem to be very stuck on them being teenagers. They are in their 20s and 30s, even though they have younger looking faces. Today's generation looks younger. I'm 36 years old. I get pegged for 27 all the time, or 25. We all look younger these days. And what's funny is a lot of the cast of Alien and Aliens were around the same age as these actors when they were starring in those films. My buddies at the Perfect Organism podcast put together a really great post showing side-by-sides of some of the characters, and everybody, except for the character of New, played by Carrie Henn, is pretty close to the same age as some other actors from the franchise. It's a weird thing to be complaining about, and it's just kind of something I don't think is worth much people's time. And even if they do look young, they do a dang good job in this movie. Let's start with Kaylee Spaney, the star of this film. She plays Rain Carradine. She really commands the screen without being a copy of Ripley. Rain is a strong, independent protagonist who steps up when needed and kicks a lot of ass. She stands out on her own, but she's still a strong woman protagonist, which this Alien franchise is very well known for. She fits right into this whole franchise, and I believe Kaylee is going to have just a very bright future. I've seen her in a lot of great things already. And then we have David Johnson as Andy the Synthetic. Andy is Rain's brother, or more like adopted brother. Andy was programmed by her father, who he found decommissioned in a junk pile and brought him back to life to help take care of Rain. David's performance as Andy is a show stealer. He's incredibly expressive, even as a synthetic, though David was quite expressive and emotional, especially for a synthetic, and that kind of ended up being his downfall, but then also rise to power in the end of things. He has a very dynamic range in this film, from soft and childlike with stutters while he talks, to menacing, cold, and calculated at times. He's able to switch so well, and it is really, really impressive. Andy will probably become a fan favorite and totally steals the show anytime he's on screen in this movie. I think people are absolutely going to love him. I truly enjoyed every single moment of his on screen. I would say that Andy is my favorite character of the whole crew. Andy and Rain have a really sweet brother and sister dynamic, even when they might not be seeing eye to eye with each other. I really felt and cared for their relationship. The rest of the cast I really liked, but I admit I did not connect with them as much as I did with Andy and Rain. Everyone had a moment to shine, but I don't feel like the rest of the cast was as fleshed out as Rain and Andy were. Aileen Wu as Navarro had the least amount of screen time, and that's pretty expected if you've seen any of the trailers or posters for the film, with her being the first victim of the film due to a facehugger attack. Her moments with the facehugger and onward are very brutal and intense, and she has some really great acting in her final moments with her chestburster, which then kicks off, kind of literally, the events of the film, which really do not slow down once things hit the fan. Spike Fern as Bjorn is good. He kind of plays the stereotypical asshole character, and has kind of a reason to be a jerk due to some events that happened to his family in the past. He really hates synthetics, and he takes it out on Andy throughout the film. But he's also quite sarcastic and playful with everybody else in the cast as well. He plays the role well, but like I said, I could not connect with the guy. Archie Renault as Tyler is good as well. He's definitely a leader-like character and comes up with the plan to steal the materials from the Weyland-Yutani station. He's a very likable character with a few funny lines as well, but was really great at the dramatics when he needed to be. But again, I just really didn't connect with him either. And Isabella Merced as well, she is good, but I think she's the one I had the least connection with besides Aileen Wu. I've noticed she's got quite a bit of a fan base online, and a lot of the marketing is focused on her. She does a lot of good screaming and takes a beating in this film, but again, she's just another character I didn't connect with. But I think fans of hers are going to love her and be excited to see what goes on with her. But to be clear, no one is bad in this movie. Everyone is good, if not great. Everyone acts well, and everybody does the job they needed to do for this film. I just didn't connect with all of the characters, like I have in previous Alien films, especially the original 4. There may be some characters that I'm not going to talk about in this review that are a little spoilery, that have mostly been left out of the marketing. So I will share my thoughts on them in my spoiler review. There is a lot of brother and sister relationships and family themes in this film, which play into the Romulus and Remus themes as well, which is a sibling story from Tales of Old. We have Rain and Andy being brother and sister. We have Tyler and Kay being brother and sister. We have Navarro and Bjorn being kind of like an adopted brother and sister, and Bjorn and Tyler being cousins. The thing about this movie is once the chaos starts, it really doesn't let up until after the finale is all wrapped up. This is an Alien movie through and through, and it is so good to say that. This might be a little bit of a bold thing to say, but this might be the film that folks wanted after we got Aliens in 1986, minus the continuation of the Ripley, Hicks, and Newt story. It's just an overall solid Alien movie. There is tension, action, suspense, and emotional stakes that really keep the movie moving at a fast pace. The alien xenomorph and facehugger action is aplenty, and it is intense, violent, relentless, and very action-packed. It definitely calls back to the first two films of the franchise with Alien and Aliens, but like I said earlier, kind of touches on the rest of the films of the franchise as well. And speaking of the practical effects, there are a ton in this film. If you've been watching the marketing or any of the behind-the-scenes stuff, you know that. The team at Legacy Effects, Studio Gillis, and Weta really did a great job bringing all of the creatures to life in this film. I actually had the pleasure of visiting Legacy Effects early on in the production process during the designing of the Xenomorph and more. I got to see the very early concepts and designs of the Xenomorph and how they brought it to life with the trash bag puppet like they did with the Queen and Aliens back in the 80s. And a year later, I was able to see the practical puppet of the Scorched Xenomorph all finished and done, with my own eyes, in person, up close. It was pretty awesome. I have a few friends and acquaintances who had the dream job of being able to work on this Alien film, and everybody should be so incredibly proud of what they managed to pull off here. After Alien Covenant, it's really great to see the Xenomorph be a practical presence on screen again. But even with the practical effects, the digital effects were almost mostly perfect in my opinion. It was a fantastic hybrid of practical effects and digital effects, which is the way I think it should be done.
There was one digital effect that I found a little iffy though, and I'll talk about that in my spoiler video because it gets a little spoilery.
And let's talk about the music as well. Benjamin Wallfish's score is wonderful, with some synthy, high-energy tracks and some callbacks to previous films as well, but not too heavy-handed on the callbacks. I'll definitely be adding some tracks to my playlist, and hopefully, if they make a vinyl release, I'll be adding it to my record collection as well. Benjamin has done great work in the past, especially on his Blade Runner 2049 score with Hans Zimmer, but this one is up there with some of his best work, in my opinion. Now, it's not a perfect film. I do have some minor nitpicks, and I'll be addressing them completely in my spoiler discussion. If I talked about some of them, they would be giving away some spoilers, so we're going to avoid that for now. But if I were to share anything, I think there might be just a few too many callbacks and maybe repeated lines from previous films in this one. There's maybe a little too much nostalgia or member berries, as you might like to call it, but those didn't really break the experience for me. There may have been one or two that kind of had me rolling my eyes a little bit. I'm not one that needs that kind of stuff in my films, especially in sequels or prequels, or I guess this was called an interquel. That's a new one for me. But again, they didn't really break my experience of the film. And this may just be me, but I didn't find the film very scary. And that could be literally me being a super fan who is completely desensitized by the Xenomorph and the crazy things that those things do to us. I'm the kind of person that's at the edge of my seat going, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Not, oh my gosh, I can't look kind of thing. I am like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Oh, cool. Like, not so much like terrified or scared or anything like that. Yeah, there's a few jump scares that made me go like that, but it's just because it's a loud noise kind of sort of thing. And that stuff really, I'm not a big jump scare person. I like tension and all that. And the movie has that, but I just wasn't feeling the terror or the fear or anything of the Xenomorph. But I haven't really felt that since I saw Alien for the first time. Everything since, I've always just been like, whoa, cool.
And I could be kind of a wiener when it comes to horror movies. I get pretty scared a lot of the times, but something about the Xenomorph, it just doesn't faze me.
Again, I think I'm just too deep in the Alien franchise, and this stuff just doesn't scare me anymore. Though Isolation stresses me out quite a bit. My hands get very sweaty on the controller when I'm playing that one. You can really tell that Fede is a super fan of the franchise with all of the wonderful details in the production design. And speaking of Alien Isolation, I did a replay just a few weeks before the movie came out, and you can see so many influences from that game in the set design and the vibe of the film. I would say Alien Romulus connects very well to the rest of the franchise and slots in very well between Alien and Aliens. It doesn't feel like it's breaking any lore, but it actually almost feels like it's tying up the little loose ends the prequels left us, minus the David story. I personally wasn't hoping for any prequel connections, but the way they did it, I was actually really impressed, and I found myself liking how they pulled it all together. And I'm really curious to see how some of the fans react to some of the prequel connections that end up being in this film. This is the kind of movie you can watch without ever seeing an Alien movie in your life. But if you're also an Alien fan, it scratches that Xenomorph itch very well. It's got more Xenomorph than I think we've had in a very, very long time. Especially if you haven't loved anything after Aliens from 1986. I know there are not a lot of fans of Alien 3 and onwards, and this might be the movie you've been waiting for. And that third act is quite nuts. It's pretty gross, and I can see it really grossing a few people out. Again, it didn't mess with me or anything like that, but I was just beyond impressed with some of what they pulled off there, especially with how big some things were. And it's all practical too. That's what's amazing. It's incredibly crazy what they did with this. Once we can talk about it freely, like in my spoiler video, I'll tell you all the details that I know about it. It's quite impressive. And it's pretty nuts, I would say that. That's something I'm very curious about how fans are going to react to as well. I personally enjoy all the Alien films, even with a little bit of a love-hate relationship with the prequels. I think those films are beautifully shot, beautifully designed. It's just some of the ideas and execution is a little funky for me. But overall, the packages are very interesting. I'm not really sure where I could rank Romulus just yet in the franchise. I think I need to see it one or two more times to really be able to place where I would put it between other films in the franchise. But currently, my list of favorites to least favorite literally goes in release order from Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, Prometheus, and Alien Covenant. But those low ones, they're not really, really low. They're still pretty high up there because they're just really well-made films. Just the ideas I might not agree with. And I appreciate all the sequels after Aliens. Alien 3 is one that I don't have a lot of issues with. It's a much different film. It took a swing, and it's dark, it's brutal, it's mean, it's depressing, but I really do enjoy that film. I loved the dog alien when I first saw it for the first time as a teenager when I was much younger. And Alien Resurrection, it's a fun movie in my opinion. I know not everybody likes it. It's a very weird vibe, but if I'm watching it in the right mood, it's a great, great, fun ride. I love Sigourney in that movie. I love Ron Perlman. It's goofy, it's silly, it's campy, and I kind of just see it as a comedy or a comic book version of the Alien franchise, and I know that's not for everybody. But if I had to slot Romulus in this list of films right now, it might be just a little above Alien 3 or just a little below Alien 3. I'm still not too sure yet. I gotta see it a few more times. I do not think it surpasses Alien and Aliens like some of the early influencer reviews that have come out have said. And I think that's an incredibly high, possibly impossible bar to cross. Those first two films are straight up masterpieces in my opinion, especially Alien. That film is just perfect. But Aliens is also a different kind of perfect. They're not the same kind of movie, and that's why it's so hard to compare the two. But my favorite of them is Alien by far. But Alien Romulus is a solid entry in this franchise. It is a damn good time and a hell of a fun ride.
But I really do need more viewings of this movie. When I first saw Prometheus and Alien Covenant, I had a very visceral kind of hatred towards the movies, but once I watched them a few more times and the years have gone by, I've kind of lightened up on them. Maybe when I watch Romulus more and more, it might drop down the list, or it might go up a little bit more. It's so new, and I need more time with it.
And so, those are my thoughts on Alien Romulus. Let me know if you've already seen it, or if you're excited to be seeing it very soon. It just feels so good to finally say we have a good Alien movie again. It's weird to say that. So thank you so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for my spoiler discussion that's coming very soon, and a video sharing the differences between the early cut of the film that I saw way before test audiences got to see it, and the final version that you and I got to watch on the big screen. And also my review of the NECA Toys Scorched Xenomorph Alien and the accessory set that you can bundle with it right now in the NECA store. I will be doing a review of those as soon as they get in my hand after they ship out. And I can't wait for those. I'm going to be taking a lot of toy photos of that bad boy and the accessories along with it. And if you'd like to keep up with all of my toy photography, I'll be sharing all of that here, as well as you can follow me on my social media accounts, which will all be linked in the description below. I want to thank you so much for watching Mike's Monsters. I really appreciate you all watching my Alien Romulus videos over the last year, and I'm so excited that we're all finally here able to watch the movie together. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day. Bye!
you.